50 authentic recipes adapted for the modern cook. Dry squash, Alexandria style, fish in coriander crust, or pancakes with honey and sesame seed. The classical cookbook. Here's the table of content. The homecoming of Odysseus, the banquet of Philoxenus, the market of the Mediterranean, a wedding feast in Macedon, Cato's farm, the wealth of empire on Hadrian's wall, supper at the baths. Let's look at Cato's farm. Cato wrote a lot. A lot of information we have is from Cato, and he did indeed have a farm. A lot that we know about business and husbandry and agriculture in Roman Empire. Let's see, okay. I have actually seen this, I think, at the Getty Museum. Silver-gilt drinking horn, modeled as a stag with inlaid glass eyes, from the Parthian Empire, Rome's eastern neighbor, modern Iraq and Iran. Very pretty. It's very large. Well, I mean, it's pretty big. Okay. Cato's farm. For us, Greek literature begins with the two great epic tales of heroes and their adventures. Roman literature begins with in an utterly different way, with the comic plays and a farming handbook. I think that's the book I was talking about a moment ago. The first full-length work of prose that happens to survive from Roman antiquity is a collection of notes jotted down as advice for someone who was planning to invest in a farm. The topics covered seemed to be the ones that had concerned the writer himself: choosing a good business, keeping it profitable, managing slave labor. Each time the master visits his farm, he will first greet the household spirit. Then he should go round the property that very day if he can, if not that day, the next, as soon as he is clear how the business stands, what jobs are finished, and what is still to be done. Next day he must send for the manager. He must aim for his best profit, sell oil when it will pay, sell surplus wine and grain, sell aging oxen, less yielding cows, less yielding sheep, sell wool, hides, old carts, old tools, old slaves, sickly slaves, and anything else surplus. The master has to be a selling man, not a buying man. The reader is told when and where to build a new farmhouse and how to equip it for wine and olive oil production. And as a bonus for all who are interested in ancient food, there is a fascinating long section of recipes. These are not recipes for main dishes. You and your cook must work out your own choice for dinner. They are recipes for preserving meat and vegetables, for making cakes and sweets, for medicinal drinks, and for special kinds of wine. They seem to be miscellaneous lists, but they have something important in common. These are all items that could be made on the farm and kept for long-term use, or indeed sold at the nearest market. They give a unique snapshot of Roman farm economy. sulphate vinegar and stand them in the sun. Then rub the lentils with oil, let them dry, and they will keep quite sound. This practical-minded author was one of the best-known figures of early Roman history. It is, in fact, quite remarkable that we have such a close insight into the way that an early statesman's mind worked. When he was engaged in his own private business, for this was Cato the censor, a man of unusual foresight, unusual strictness, and unusual confidence in his own decisions. To later generations, Cato was a typical traditional Roman, a fine military commander in Spain, a fine and honest governor of Sardinia. He had eventually been appointed censor back in Rome and, as such, had expelled some well-known men from the Roman Senate for lapses in morality. One of them, so it was said, for no other reason than that he had kissed his own wife while someone else was watching. Someone else being their daughter. Cato thinned the order of knights. 2. Lucius Vittorius being expelled because he was too fat to ride a horse. How can such a body be useful to the state? Cato demanded, when everything between gullet and genitals has been taken over by the stomach. Cato was also said to have a fierce aversion to the Greek culture that was then invading Rome and sapping the vigor of Roman youth. But in spite of such stories, he comes over in reality as severely practical. Let's look at one of the recipes. Okay. Here's a mask of the wine god, Dionysus. This recipe is called garlic cheese. First, lightly digging into the ground with fingers, he pulls up 4 heads of garlic with their thick leaves. Then, he picks some celery tops and sturdy rue, and the thin stems of trembling coriander. With these collected, he sits before the fire and sends the slave girl for a mortar. He splashes a grass-grown pulp with water and puts it to the hollow mortar. He seasons with grains of salt, and after the salt, hard cheese is added. Then he mixes in the herbs with the pestle. His right hand works at the fiery garlic. Then he crushes all alike in a mixture. His hand circles gradually. The ingredients lose their individuality. One of the many colors emerges. One, neither wholly green, for the white tempers it, nor shining white, since tinted by so many herbs. The work goes on, not as jerkily as before, but more heavily. The pestle makes its slow circuit, so he sprinkles in some drops of Athena's olive oil and adds a little sharp vinegar, and again works with his mixture together. Then at length he runs 2 fingers round the mortar, gathering the whole mixture into a ball, so as to produce the form and name of a finished mortum. Meanwhile, busy Cybele has baked a loaf. This he takes after wiping his hands. Morteum 88 to 120. Not for the faint of heart, the fiery Morteum garlic cheese. If we take the poet's recipe at face value, it may include 50 cloves of garlic, a pretty powerful mixture, but surprisingly good with fresh warm loaf and a few olives. The farmer has just a small ball of hard cheese in his larder, yet the finished garlic cheese is described as firm enough to make a ball itself. The garlic garlic is quite juicy when pounded, and this determines how much cheese is to be used to produce a finished morteo. The olive oil and vinegar soften the mixture slightly, but do not turn it into a spread. Here's a modern rendition, I guess, of this recipe. It serves 2 heads of garlic, 8 ounces of pecorino romano cheese, 1 large handful of coriander leaves, 2 teaspoons chopped fresh rue or dried if necessary, 2 heaped teaspoons chopped fresh celery leaf, 1 teaspoon salt, 1 tablespoon white wine vinegar, 1 teaspoon olive oil. This is a mosaic from Pompeii, probably based on a painting. This seems to show a scene from a Greco-Roman comedy. It might be the title scene of Menander's Synaristosai, Women at Lunch. I don't know if I pronounced that right, probably not. Synaristosai. Let's look at some of the other images in this book. Celery puree. Smoked sausage. That sounds interesting. Smoked sausage lucaniche. Cheesecake. Sweet cheesecake. Layered cheesecake. A lot of cheesecakes. There's another image. A busy banquet scene, wall painting from Pompeii. A slave removes a guest's sandals. I think here. And a friend offers a cup of wine. Another guest has eaten or drunk too much already. It is helped away. It is helped away, yeah. Peacock from a Roman wall painting. Peacock meat and peahen's eggs were expensive delicacies. Preparing dinner. Slaves are cutting a fawn. A head of garlic is among the supplies. Awaiting use, Roman wall painting, 1st century AD. Fine Roman silverware from Mildenhall Treasury, found in Suffolk in the 1940s, probably buried about AD 360. Very nice. I wouldn't mind a set like this myself. Looks like a shell. Relief shows satyrs and maenads, attendants of Bacchus. There are also Christian motifs on some pieces. Mosaic from Roman Italy. Fish bones, crabs, claws, fruit stones, snail shells. The remains of a banquet permanently depicted on a dining room floor. That's funny. They did a mosaic on the floor as if just like all the trash and crap that was left over after a dinner party were just brought example of the jigsaw puzzle from which Greek and Roman food sometimes has to be reconstructed. Let's see what it says. Harposecration of Mendes calls the Alexandrian kind of cake a pancabra. This is crumbled etria boiled with honey, and when boiled they are made up into balls, wrapped in thin papyrus to hold them together. Athenius 684. There are two kinds of etria, the better kind called riemata, flowed out, and the poorer kind called lagana, wafer. Galen on the properties of food. Let me know if you guys are interested in Galen. He was a philosopher and medic, I guess, and like a natural philosopher, what was medicine at the time, and the sciences in late antiquity. He was, I believe, Middle Eastern, what we now call Middle Eastern. Etria presents nibbles biscuits shaped. Aisha's dictionary. On the way home from the symposium, cup by the Birgos painter, 470 BC. Okay. Chicken salad, salakatabia. I'm just gonna read some of the titles here. Stuffed gourd. Shoulder of pork with sweet wine cakes. This one's pretty famous. This is from Apicius, yes. Apicius is a famous ancient I guess, chef and a cookbook that was found, the Cookbook of Apicius. Tasting History, the YouTube channel, actually has a video about Parthian chicken. If you're interested in food and antiquity, I would definitely go check out